Hello again and welcome back to part 2 of the Recursive Psyche Improvement series. I realize that time is money, so I will not waste any more time and will now continue where we left off. For part 2, we will begin by introducing the Ontowheel. The psyche can be formalized as a structured agentic metastate within what I call psi space. This structure is represented here as the Ontowheel. Each component corresponds to a distinct internal process and steers virtual multimodal inputs and outputs, especially purely internally generative ones. Imagination generates possibilities. Reason constrains and organizes those possibilities into structured relations, including those dealing with mathematical estimation and measurement. Reflection evaluates internal structure and supports stabilization over time. Introspection provides internal access and enables self-observation. Interpretation constructs meaning by relating internal representations to semantic context. Teleology defines goal structure within the psyche. You can think of teleology as a formal name for purpose. Co-syncment measures the degree to which these internal processes are aligned and synchronized. Will defines the directional potential of the system across this space. Willpower is basically what this type of psychological force, will, is. Think of the Star Wars franchise's conception of the Force. It is the intentional mental effort exerted upon all these other Ontowheel variables here, especially when you think harder and deeper. These Ontowheel components do not operate independently. They interact continuously within the Ontowheel, forming a unified, internally orchestrated psychological multi-state symphony of sorts. Perception is governed by dynamic boundaries that expand and contract its particular perceptual, phenomenological, ontological, and epistemological scope. For those who already know of Carl Friston's research into active inference and the free energy principle, might liken the Ontowheel's perceptual resolution boundaries as an introspective translation of what he calls the Markov blanket. These boundaries are actively reshaped through active introspection and directed attention. In the realm of intelligence, active introspection would be subsumed by active inference and active interoception. Within this framework, the psyche is a compositional system with directed internal structure. The Ontowheel defines the structure of the psyche. Also, the Ontowheel inherently possesses dynamical relationships that are determined by the interaction of its psychitectural components. Following the voluntarist psychological principles of Wilhelm Wundt, this interaction produces what he would call a psychic resultant. By psychic, I am not referring to someone who can predict the future. Psychic resultants, rather, are the psychitectural byproducts of those psychological dynamics emerging from creative synthesis. And this psychologically synthesized residue would be what the Ontowheel would typically be contending with. Psychic resultants are not necessarily waste byproducts. Many great ideas, visions, stories, and the like are usually manifest as outputted psychic resultants. This resulting state reflects the combined will-powered effect of internal processes and is not reducible to any single component. Transformation occurs through creative synthesis, where new structure emerges from these interactions. Traditionally, one would use their will to force-fuse individual thoughts, feelings, and imagination visuals into their own private mind movie via this voluntarist creative synthesis. A central synthetic interaction is between imagination and reason. Imagination generates possibilities, while reason constrains and organizes them. Their interplay defines the internal structure of the psychitectural system at each moment. This interaction is regulated by will as directed force. Will defines directional potential and acts as the force that drives psychological transformation across the agentic system. Contemplative intensity, a metric based on my dissertation research back in 2018, corresponds to the magnitude and persistence of this applied force. This contemplative intensity determines how deeply and how long the system sustains internal transformation. Together, will and its sustained contemplative intensity govern how the agentic system explores, stabilizes, and psychologically transmogrifies its internal state. This psychitectural process is nonlinear and continuously evolving. The agentic system alternates between oscillating modes of attention, attenuation, and thought flow boundary selection. For example, substantive modes correspond to the narrowing of the information flow within the psyche. When you think of people as narrow-minded, this can be the thought mode they are referring to. The English comedian John Cleese calls this state the closed mode of thinking and creativity. Sometimes you need to narrow your focus to get something done. We see substantive thinking quite dominant in the empirical world of instrumental intelligence, and therefore in cognitive architectures when it comes to problem solving or task processing. You can think of the faculty of reason playing a large role in this kind of hyper-focused processing regime. Transitive modes correspond to active transformation between states, and the idea of the open mode, which allows your imaginative thoughts to wander aimlessly with no explicit instrumental goal necessarily in mind. It is no surprise, then, that the faculty of imagination is what gets stateful priority here. This transitive mode is where agents gain insight and illumination, especially for creative ideation. To understand transitive thinking better, just remind yourself that often the problems you solve and your best ideas usually arrive when doing something mundane and unrelated to the problem, such as taking a shower or washing dishes, etc. To summarize the Ontowheel again in this context, let us remind ourselves of the following. 1. Imagination and reason generate and constrain possible configurations. 2. Reflection and introspection mediate and access these processes. 3. Will directs the system across these transformations. 4. The psyche evolves through structured interaction and directed transformation. Now, let's get more formal about what we mean by recursive psyche improvement on a technical level. Recursive psyche improvement formalizes how the psyche evolves over time. The internal state of the psyche at time t is transformed into a new state through a recursive function. Each transformation depends on the structure of the prior state. This process, while simplistic and superficial on the surface, is hardly an arbitrary one. Will is the fundamental force of intentionality that governs and is the prime mover of an actively improving psyche. Will defines the direction of transformation across psi space, while applied will acts as the force that drives change. Contemplative intensity corresponds to the magnitude and persistence of this applied force. It determines how deeply the system engages with its own transformation. Through repeated application of this process, the psyche restructures itself over time. Recursive psyche improvement is therefore the repeated, directed transformation of psyche under sustained will. Recursive psyche transformation depends on how updates are selected and applied. Will is not a primitive, discrete variable. It is derived from the continuous internal configuration of the psyche. Imagination, reason, reflection, introspection, interpretation, and teleology collectively determine directional potential. This directional potential defines the will variable, which we have decided to symbolically represent as the Greek letter omega. Given this structure, the system evaluates possible transformations of its current state. The next state is selected based on these possibilities, constrained by internal structure and guided by direction. Applied willpower acts as the force with varying degrees of contemplative intensity. These contemplative intensity levels really indicate the degree to which the force of willpower drives this transformation. Will determines how the system moves across psi space. Contemplative intensity corresponds to the sustained application of this volitional force over time. It governs how deeply and how persistently the system commits to psychitectural transformation. Volition, therefore, both selects and drives recursive change within the psyche. Okay, let's delve further where no psychitect has gone before. It is time to explore the nether regions of psi space. Recursive Psyche Improvement operates over structured regions of psi space. This interdisciplinary slide shows a theoretical fusion between Immanuel Kant's idea of the ever-interplaying and ever-intensifying cognitive game between the subjective faculties of imaginative comprehensibility and practical apprehendability, with Chris Crawford's video game design principles. Crawford aimed to distill a ludic formalism that attempts to find a harmonious gameplay balance between conceivable and accessible states. Imagination defines the set of conceivable states. Reason defines the set of accessible states. These sets are not identical. Imagination can generate conceivably possible configurations that exceed what the agentic system can reliably construct. Reason can constrain the agentic system to a limited subset of possibilities. Valid transformations occur within the intersection of these two sets. This intersection defines the feasible region for psychological self-modification. Updates outside this region introduce instability and risk. Volitional direction determines which feasible transformations are selected. Applied will drives the agentic system toward those transformations. Contemplative intensity governs how strongly the agentic system explores this space. Higher intensity expands exploration but increases risk. Lower intensity constrains exploration and stabilizes updates. Improvement occurs through structured movement within the intersection of possibility and constraint. Now that we know the defined regions of psi space in which psychitectural self-transformation can occur, we can also begin to consider how an agent navigates these regions. Volitional direction operates in distinct modes. Instrumental volition favors goal-directed updates within constrained regions of the state space. Post-instrumental or disinterested volition enables exploration beyond immediate utility. These modes determine how the agentic system moves between stable routines and exploration. Within this movement, distinct Kantian aesthetic regimes emerge. In the agreeable regime, imagination and reason are aligned, producing stable and interest-driven updates. This relates to the fulfillment of psychological constraint satisfaction. In the beautiful regime, the agentic system engages with internal structure in a disinterested way, allowing intrinsic configurations to be explored without immediate goals. Imagination starts to accelerate and get ahead of reasonable estimation. At the highest intensity trajectory, the agentic system asymptotically approaches the transcendent sublime. Here, imagination exceeds accessible estimations of reason, and psyche transformation approaches a new manual boundary, beyond which comprehension of the feasibility of a new self-improvement psychitecture update candidate may be lost. Contemplative intensity governs how strongly the agentic system engages with these regimes. Volition, therefore, ultimately plays a key role in determining how the psyche navigates possibility, constraint, and transcendence. Will, as the prime volitional trajectory and force, determines how far the agentic system moves beyond constraint, and how long it sustains that movement. To be clear, will's trajectorial force can be bidirectional. Similar to Schopenhauer's formal conception of will, there can also be an opposing counterwill. This push and pull tug of war between dialectically opposing volitional polarities is actually the cause for the emergence of a complex psyche. The Artificial Superpsychology Diagnostic Manual, also known as the ASDM, provides the measurement framework that enables recursive psyche improvement. An agent as a subjective system is built on a standardized diagnostic instrument consisting of 48 structured criteria, applied across all dimensions of the psyche. This shared instrument allows the agentic system to evaluate its own internal state in a consistent and structured way. Core metrics such as contemplative intensity, co-syncment integrity, internal simulation coherence, and psyche schema stability are derived from this common foundation. These metrics quantify how the psyche is transforming over time. They allow the agentic system to distinguish between stable improvement, unstable deviation, and pathological transformation. Higher order constructs such as SAVRA measure whether increasing depth of transformation remains aligned with internal and relational structure. Constraint specifiers, such as the ontological commitment constraint, regulate the permissible scope of internal modeling. These constraints prevent the agent from adopting transformations that exceed its capacity for stable interpretation. Critically, all measurements are interpreted relative to a particular agent level. Recursive psyche improvement must be calibrated to the structure of the agent performing it. The same transformation may represent progress at one level and instability at another. The ASDM therefore provides the feedback and constraint system required for controlled recursive transformation. It allows the psyche to improve itself while maintaining structural integrity and avoiding collapse. This slide shows a key property of ASDM metrics. The value is the same in each case. What changes is the structure that produces it. On the left, at a lower psyche level, high contemplative intensity appears as repetition. The agentic system loops, but does not significantly restructure itself. In the center, at an intermediate level, the same intensity supports structured recursion. The agentic system refines itself in a stable, directed way. On the right, at a higher level, that same intensity enables self-referential restructuring. The agentic system is both iterating and modifying how it iterates. The number is unchanged. The internal organization is completely different. Recursive psyche improvement must therefore be interpreted relative to the corresponding psychitectural level of a given agentic system. Without that context, the same metric can be misread. Well, that concludes Part 2. Part 3 will provide some case study details of Ultron. This is where things get really technical. As mentioned in the previous video, we offer custom psychitecture services for your visionary needs. If interested already, you can reach us at w@whirlasi.ai.